All right. So welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for being here, for folks that are with us now and folks that might be watching this at some point in the future. This social equity peer-to-peer networking event is really built around energy efficiency, some progress in energy efficiency for our indoor and mixed cultivators from tier 1 to tier 5. We're going to expect some progress upon relicensure. I'm going to just share my screen really quick and point everybody to some of the energy efficiency standards that we're going to be expecting in year 2. Year 1, we waived, but as far as energy standards for lighting and energy standards for dehumidification, the board is really going to want to see some progress here. All of this looks like, to most people, gibberish. And I have a really awesome crew here today that are killing the efficiency game and that have offered support for folks long before I was in this role or the CCB was even a thing, with Kendall and Stephanie from White River Growpro, and also from Efficiency Vermont, on really understanding and unpacking what these means and how you can move the needle on your energy efficient setup. And when I say that, we don't expect necessarily at the board for everybody to kind of have these lights bought, installed, ready to rock on relicensure, but we're going to want to see some real steps that folks have taken, whether that's a letter that folks are working with Efficiency Vermont or receipts that you've purchased updates to some of your lighting and dehumidification equipment. We're going to want to see real progress, and we're going to have more conversations around this and relicensure as part of this kind of series in the future. But for right now, we want to start getting folks comfortable with what folks are already doing and what cool rebate services are available to the cannabis community to kind of get energy efficiency, things rocking. So I don't think anybody needs to hear any more from me. Nick Smith, Emerald Visions. I've been to your facility. It's really cool what you're doing. I'm going to turn it over to you first. Aiden, maybe then you can talk about your setup, what you're doing, and then hopefully, I've seen Forbin's in and out. Hopefully they're figuring out their tech issues. I think Nelly and I are going to work to trying to get them squared away while Nick and Aiden start. So Nick, take it away. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm Nick Smith with Emerald Visions. As Kyle said, we're a tier 1 indoor cultivator. We're growing up in northwest corner of Vermont, up in Alberg. Currently, are running a 24 light veg grow room, just with 200 watt lux. They're like the ADRs. They're highly red spectrum, but they run very little electricity. We're finding they have really good growth, and we're saving a ton of money on electricity with them. Everything's really robust looking. We're also running T5 replacement bars. They're LEDs made by Lux as well. It doesn't matter who it is, just throwing out the name I use. There's a lot of other companies. They run 18 watts instead of 54 watts and pretty much get you the same routing as a T5 fluorescent bulb, maybe like a day longer routing. But yeah, we like those a lot. They don't put out much heat, and it's super easy. Our veg room only has 1 AC unit, and I thought I was going to need 2, or was preparing for it, but with how little heat the LEDs put off in our veg room, we're able to just have 1 AC unit, which was nice. So our flower room, we have 18 645 watt LED lights and 2 2-ton AC units that are high efficiency. Then also 3 commercial dehumidifiers by Quest that each run about 2.4 or so amps a piece. They're the Quest 165s. We're upgrading to the 225s, but they're super energy efficient, probably like between 3 and 4 amps for the Quest 225. So they'll give us a huge upgrade in dehumidification with not running a lot more electricity. So yeah, one reason we're using LEDs is because I've been using them for probably the past 10 years or so, and the technology's really come a long way. I remember back in 2005, I took a college loan, and other than buying like textbooks and stuff, I used it for LED lights, and that was back when they all looked like light brights. And I told myself I'd never be fooled again, because these things, they couldn't keep anything alive, not basil or anything. They were garbage. So I was definitely a hard win over on the LED technology. But then they started making these like blurple lights, and I saw some people getting okay results. They're trash, but yeah, the LED technology is a lot better. You can actually get the HID equivalency and just as good of yields. Just about, I'm getting 2.5 to 3 pounds of light, and really good terpenes, nice density, and less electricity for just AC. Dehumidification does take a little bit more because you're not running the ACs quite as much, but that's literally the only downside. But then your dehumidification's more efficient because you're using an actual dehumidifier versus relying on the AC's condensate. So yeah, along with just using the LEDs, we also have everything on lighting controllers. So every day we come into the grow room and measure each zone. Each zone's like one rolling bench. So we try to keep, we start out at about 450 ppfd or par, so real low light, then we ramp up. So our lights are 645 watts each, but at week 1, we're really only running like 320 watts per light. So in addition to using LEDs, really high efficient lighting, we're also dimming it and then getting even more cost savings. And then all the way up, once we're at full light intensity, we only go up to about 1,000 to 1,100 ppfd. So I definitely recommend a par meter for everyone. It lets you not overdo your plants because you can definitely shock them and set it back. So yeah, don't just always go for like the faux or faucet lights. Like sometimes less is more with grow lights. Just get a par meter, get it exactly where you want. Like right now we're at 85% light intensity, and that's the highest we'll be in our grow room. Then also we're looking in the future to separating each zone onto its own dimming schedule. So I just need more phone connectors really. And then with our Agrotech lighting controller, we'll be able to control each zone individually. So depending on the height of the cultivar, we can adjust the lighting, the light intensity. And so that's one cool thing that we're looking forward to. And we'd definitely suggest for others to either get a par meter and what like Forbin's Nick and Angela have. I think they have light lifters, I believe. It's like motorized light lifters. They're pricey, but they're great.
Ours are not motorized.
They're not. Well, I think I saw.
They're hand cranked, but yeah.
That's very cool. You're doing it though, because then other than just increasing your light intensity, you can just lower your lights. It's really smart. I'd recommend. I like that it's low tech actually too. It's like lift and grows pricey, but yeah. So if anyone had questions about that, I guess point it towards these guys because they already did it. Forbin's, that is.
Yeah, I'm definitely a believer in raising and lowering the lights. Just because of the efficiency that you can gain. Instead of relying on your lights for heating, there's better ways to heat your room.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you guys are killing it with your grow setup you have over there.
Thanks.
Looking great.
Yeah, it's coming along. Still a work in progress, to be honest, but.
Yeah, your most recent picks are just gorgeous buds.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. So
Nick,
yeah.
Oh, I didn't know, Nick, if you were done yet. I know. I just wanted to give Nick and Angela, thank you so much. I'm glad. I know you were having tech problems. So just for your information, Nick's from Emerald Visions I got to keep my Nick straight. Kicking us off, talking about his setup. Nick, I know from Forbin's, I know that you've got an extensive HVAC background and your setup's really cool. And Aiden, I've heard a lot of really cool things about what you're doing down in southern Vermont. So this was an opportunity just for Nick and Angela to know that, just asking everybody to kind of go through what they're doing now. And I'm hoping that just stimulates some organic conversation about how this energy efficiency language, it looks and sounds scary. But some really cool people are doing some really cool things.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to add about the energy efficiency is with Efficiency Vermont, like we've used them in the past for just like heat pumps for our house for rebates. And so I think a couple of years ago when we started thinking about getting into the legal industry, we were already planning on buying all these efficient lighting, efficient dehumidifiers, efficient ACs. And so we contacted them anyway, and there was all sorts of money available. And at this point today, we've gotten over $20,000 in rebates. And yeah, it's just kind of like the CCB requiring us to do this was, I mean, even though we were planning on doing it, anyone who wasn't, it's actually doing them a favor. They should really just embrace it and just think of it as free money. I mean, this equipment that they want you to use is great. It's not a subpar piece of equipment. You'll get great results with everything that they want you to use.
Yeah, it's the highest return on investment. Not to mention some of the other resources. They were able to project our energy consumption like seasonally even. And, that's a pretty valuable tool that not everyone has easy access to. And they did that for free for us.
Yeah, that's one crazy thing about Efficiency Vermont is everything they do is for free. And they'll come and like, they'll even pick out equipment for you. So the less you know, the more they can help you. For someone like yourself, Nick, I mean, you've been doing this forever. And I mean, I'm sure it was somewhat helpful, but for someone with less of a background, they'd be even more of an asset.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Well, I don't really have much else, I don't believe. Other than I really would recommend the par meter for people, or just to use it to either raise and lower their lights or to dim that, and just use Efficiency Vermont because it's just free money waiting for you.
Yeah, I don't think many folks are growing with anything besides LED now. I honestly can't think of any licensed grows here in Vermont that I know of running HID or double-ended, but with LED, I mean, like you said, a par meter is like a requirement.
Yeah, you can easily rock your plants because they're so powerful. Yep. I've run foes before, and I was actually, it's like taking a Ferrari out in a McDonald's parking lot. It's way too much light. You like need insanely high ceilings. You guys could probably run them, but it's too much money for too powerful of a light.
It's more light than you need per square foot is what I've found. I know they have a new light coming out. I trialed the A3i and I mean, like you said, it's a Lamborghini, but it's more light than I can see myself using. And you know, I see most of those facilities, the lights are really high above the canopy, and you know.
Yeah, it'd be a great light for a 6x6 footprint, I think, something like that.
For a single light, it's pretty cool. The light bars are adjustable too, which is like a cool feature. But in a multi-light facility, that's not something that I can see.
Yeah, it's not necessary.
It's not necessary, and you're paying for that. I think that their newest light is around 1,000 watts, I believe. So it's closer to Mammoth lighting that I'm running, or the lighting that you're running. It's a little more like reasonable, par output per square foot. I heard you when we first got on. I heard you mention you only run your lights up to like 85%. That's I'll run up to like 90 or 95 sometimes, but that's all that I ever need, and I'm hitting 11 or 1200 ppfd at the top of the canopy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's about where I'm shooting for as well.
Yeah.
Oh, another thing, with our grow, we're able to accomplish everything on just currently a 200 amp breaker without the LED lights and high efficiency. We wouldn't be able to do that. We'd be able to run like a 9-light setup. Yep. We are doing an upgrade, but these Efficiency Vermont rebates have really sped up the ability to pay for that upgrade because it's not cheap.
Is it single phase or 3-phase at your spot?
Single phase.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do a lot with a 200 amp single phase service, and
it's incredible.
You can't really max out a tier 1 license, I don't think, but close. A 200 amp 3-phase service will easily accommodate like a tier 1. I don't have.
It's like 240, 250 for a tier 1 is what we're finding.
For a full 1,000 square feet canopy. Yeah. So. Which not all our tier 1s are doing, right? You can kind of build up to that.
Yep.
Yeah, we have about 660 square feet of canopy, and we're not even using the full 200.
Yep.
That's including
that's awesome.
Awesome.
Something that we have a grower that's been experimenting with and doing really well is he's actually running on his on cycle for flower. He's running 5 on, 2 off, 5 on. And so doesn't do anything, doesn't mess up the plants at all. The theory is that the cannabis plant can convert enough, carbohydrates into sugars during the night cycle to run full for about 5 or 6 hours. And by running for 5 hours, turning it off for 2, we actually may be increasing the production of the plant. And then running a lot less. And those 2 hours going off in the middle of the day, we're seeing a significant decrease in the load of everything because the lights come on, we get to cool it down, everything drops down. It's been really fantastic. And so that's a huge, think about that in terms of your savings if you're dropping 2 hours off every day in flower.
Yeah, that same concept could apply to running 2 different zones for your veg room. You can have every other light on its own zone and alternate, so only half of your lights are on at any given time.
Absolutely.
Like Jungle Boys do that with their mom rooms. They have whole rows turn on and off. And same with, like, you really actually could maximize a tier 1 with a 200 amp service if you had each of your flower rooms on at different times. So say one was noon to midnight, the other midnight to noon. You could easily, with a very small service and LEDs, high efficiency equipment, maximize a tier 1.
Yep.
May be really inconvenient for some of the plant care, but you can do it.
Yeah, and you need a separate veg room too. And
yeah.
And electricians don't typically like to do that. When they do a load calculation, they want to know that you're not ever going to exceed 80%. But it is doable. I mean, I think a lot of guys did that for many years ago.
You know, one of the things about running any kind of cycle or off times is, you know, it's all good on paper, but once you start running things, your cycles and your times get screwed up pretty fast in terms of when things need to run.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we went, you know, we're like at max capacity, max load here. We're still like under 80%. So we can turn everything on if we have to. And that's,
right.
That's the
well, that's ideal. That's where you want to be. I mean, when you calculate a load, you do your max load, you try to get it to 80% of that, what you know. Yep.
Cool.
There's a question in the chat. I believe it's for Nick Smith. Nick, I could answer it, but just thought it would be better if you did. From Maple Maestro, Nick runs 660 square feet of canopy on 100 amps, question mark. So just wanted you to follow up on that.
No, each one of my grow rooms is on a 100 amp breaker. So it's 330 square feet for every 100 amps. I believe that.
How many?
We have 200 amps, so it's 330 square feet for every 100.
How many lights are in that 330 square feet?
18 lights. They're all the Lux 645 lights.
Yep.
And then they're two two-ton AC units and 3 Quest 165s. So everything's on 220 as well, or 240.
Which is really important if you're setting up your grow to do as much of it as you can on 240 or better if you've got access.
Yeah, not everyone has 3-phase.
Yeah,
you know,
that's about that's like 50 amps in lighting. If you were to run your lighting at 100%, your lighting's about 50 amps, and then the Quest are probably another 25 or 30. So
yeah,
that's great. Yeah.
Well, Aiden, Chipper speaks really highly of what you've got going on. If you wouldn't mind jumping in and sharing.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. First of all, thanks so much for having me. This is an awesome conversation to be a part of. Can everyone hear me okay? I have weird luck with Zoom. Okay, good. So yeah, I had a great inspection with Chipper. He's such a great guy, and was definitely looking around at the build, and I'm really, really happy that he suggested me to be a part of this. So in a nutshell, I first got involved in cannabis in southern Maine in the caregiver system there, and building out big commercial rooms in an old mill building, all with tall ceilings and dual end high pressure sodium bulbs, massive air conditioning, massive electricity bills. So when I moved over to Vermont to come over here, I wanted to do things differently for that reason. And so I bought this property in 2020 that came with a timber frame barn, really similar, Nick Smith kind of in size, and sort of our setups is what it sounds like. And I poured concrete in the whole thing and quickly figured out that with 8-foot tall ceilings, I'm not going to be able to have the traditional approach of high pressure sodium of big air conditioners. I just have low volumetric space and very little space between plant and light. And so right off the bat, I jumped into the LED world. I got 22 Gavita 1700Es and ran them right away to 240 volts so that they would pull 2.9 amps as opposed to 5.9. I also have a 200 amp service that the house came with, but I was going to get really close to overwhelming that if I didn't make that decision right off the bat. And so that then led into being able to cool the whole room down 40% less required AC, of course. I have a 3-ton Mitsubishi, and then I have a 24,000 BTU mini split heat pump. Both are mini splits. That does everything that I need it to do and cuts costs in a big way as well. And I paired that with a Quest 205 and an Aiden 320. So the Quest 205 is already hitting that 2.4 liter per kilowatt hour. The Aiden is hitting 2.9 liters per kilowatt hour. So those are where I need them to be. And a lot of this has already been talked about, which I think is really cool. But the benefit of being able to run your system efficiently and run your lights lower is it just makes a huge difference. I think there's this misconception that people jump on cranking their lights at 100% to just, shower their plants. And it doesn't make any sense. The PAR reader is the best advice that you could give there, because that's everything that you need. I typically start at 40%, and I don't usually go past 75% of the power. So another thing that really incentivized me to build the garden as efficiently as I could. The barn came with 2 Tesla power walls and 24 solar panels on the roof. I obviously knew this isn't going to take over the whole garden, not even close, but it will supplement the electric use. So instead of getting more solar panels, which I can't now, I thought, how efficient can I build this garden to offset as much as possible? So my solar array is pulling 5 kilowatts on a good day. 40 total. It'll pull 5 at one time, 5 kilowatts at once. And the garden is pulling somewhere between 18 and 22. That varies a bit depending on what stage we're at, how I'm running the lights, where we are in our flowering cycle, of course. But this kind of gives me a little bit more data to look at, and on a really sunny day, a row of my lights is still being supplemented from the panels, a little bit more than that. And so this is kind of my bread and butter, and I just want to increase this as much as I can. I do want to get more panels. I want to stick 100% with LED. Interesting to hear that people aren't growing with dual ends in the state, or at least they don't seem to be. I'm not remotely surprised. I understand what works for you. I'm not talking down on that. I just have loved my LEDs. I use these Gavitas for veg. They're full spectrum, and I use them for the flower room as well. So let's see. I'm limited by a 200 amp panel in the same way that I do need to have upgraded. But thankfully, wiring everything to 240, pulling way less amperage than I was. This has allowed me to sort of exist for this season in this way. I can't expand too much more right now, but I don't necessarily need to. So I'm a huge advocate for LEDs. I'm a huge advocate for both of these dehumidifiers that I run and use. And much respect to Efficiency Vermont. I was talking to Kathy over there, and like you said, Nick Smith, it's not only incentives and rebates that they're willing to throw back to you to make your life way easier and to allow your business to grow bigger and quicker, but it's also the information that they have, and just being able to sort of coach you and explain things to you that you didn't understand to begin with, or just to provide resources with you. So we're really lucky here to have Efficiency Vermont. And I think, I'm telling as many cultivators as I possibly can about them, because I keep finding more that haven't known. Let's see here. So that's sort of a nutshell of my garden down here. As I said, I'm a mixed tier 1. I'm right on the border of Massachusetts. I'm in Stamford. It's not the biggest room, but I am a mixed license, and I've built 2 greenhouses in my back pasture with DC fans hung in them and some cheap solar panels I got on Facebook Marketplace, but they power up and they buzz and they work really, really well. So I'm really excited for this coming season out there. I think that there's just a lot of ways that people can really sort of optimize their systems and run them in a smart way that benefits the planet as well as your overhead costs. And I think that seeing people recognized for making those decisions and for running an efficient garden would be really great. I think that while this meeting is mostly about electricity, there are so many other things that can be done to maximize efficiency in your garden, whether that's, capturing the condensate water from your dehums, filtering it and reusing it, whether that's growing in living soil, there's all these different moves that people can make to sort of, in some ways, simplify and really maximize the systems that they've got. We're alive in a really cool time where LEDs exist and are affordable and typically come with 4-year warranties. So, yeah, if anyone has any questions for me at all, I think that kind of says everything that I've got here. A lot's been touched on really well before I started. So this is, again, great to be involved in.
So one thing I wanted to chime in is just when everybody is sizing or thinking about dehumidifiers, you really want to be sure to try to use 4 if you can in your room. If you have 1 square room, you really want to try to have 4 dehumidifiers. They will work so much better as you put the what you need split up into 4. So that was just something that I thought of.
Definitely.
Yeah,
it's a lot more efficient.
Less microclimates, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what's that?
It can be staged with your environmental controls too. That's what we do. That's what I've always recommended. Because the first month, a lot of time, a room with 4 dehums, you're probably only using 1 or 2 the first couple weeks.
Totally.
Right.
That makes sense. Yeah, that totally makes sense. And also with lower temperatures, pulling moisture out of the air, my understanding is that having 4 is just a much more effective process. Yeah, I undersized that. I started with just the Quest 205, and I added the Aiden, and then I started to really look at my electrical panel and slow my roll. But when I have a 400 amp service, I'll be adding more dehumidification.
Are you going to get an Aiden or a Quest next?
I think I'm going to get an Aiden. Yeah.
Good.
It's really accessible and really efficient and work great. Yeah, I love the 320 that I've got. It sounds like a station.
A little less heat.
Yeah.
A little less heat than the Quest. We actually were diving into that with Efficiency Vermont in one of our last meetings. And, when you really look at the specs, a little bit less heat in the grow room can be really helpful overall on your HVAC load. So definitely worth considering.
Although they're both great units.
They're both great
excellent
brands.
Yeah.
I think the Quests are a little better on pint per kilowatt hour, depending on the model.
You got to look at the pint per kilowatt hour and then the BTUs it produces in conjunction with that. And that's where the math gets kind of interesting and starts skewing towards Aiden. But yeah.
But again, hard to go wrong with either one of those.
Yeah. Blessed to have them both. A question that I wanted to ask everyone is, I was talking to Payette Efficiency Vermont, and we were talking about off-peak hours. And I was wondering if anybody that you knew of or yourselves, are you running your lights on during off-peak? And are you spending less money for doing so?
We're not. That really only applies to like free phase service. But it's really hard to do with flower cycles. With your lights on 12 hours a day, there's really no way to not hit peak on one side and the other. Peak is typically early morning and late evening. So no matter what, you're going to hit one of those demand times. And so what I've seen is that you'll save money during off-peak, but your consumption during peak is going to basically balance it out. And if you have multiple rooms that are cycling, then it's not really feasible. It's not really a savings. The power company certainly prefers that you consume more with off-peak, but I haven't been able to really maximize that. I don't know anyone else that has.
Gotcha. That makes sense. I just started to look into it.
We haven't as well. We haven't tried to use off-peak hours as well. Just with having an employee or multiple employees, the best time that they want to be working is during peak.
Of course.
Unfortunately, but it's a good question.
Yeah.
If you have kids, there's no way you can do it otherwise.
Yeah. You need some like third shift. If you, I don't know, if you're growing like midnight to 10 a.m. maybe.
Exactly.
Right.
Industrial customers can actually save a lot by running equipment on third shift, but I think it's tough to apply that to a grow facility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have
Cool,
a question
that
for you
makes
guys.
sense. Yeah.
What kind of a grow controller are you guys using for your grows? Or do you
Troll
have different
Master.
Yep.
Yeah, we
Master
spec out
CS1.
Trollmaster.
Yeah. I'll be completely honest. I'm not the biggest fan overall. I'm certainly not a big fan of their app on the phone. However, it's reliable. It's simple. It does work. It's relatively affordable. Everything that I've got it controlling, it's doing a good job. So it's not as fancy. I don't see as much data as I would like, you know, but it works.
The cord management's also nice with the Trollmaster. It's easy to kind of get everything going around and tucked up instead of having cords going everywhere.
The controllers, go ahead, Nick.
Oh, I was gonna say, yeah, the Hydro X is definitely a great entry level lighting controllers, environmental controller that I'd recommend to any cultivator trying to save. I don't know, probably about $500 from going to the Hydro X Pro, or they have a couple other models. Not really all that necessary for someone just trying to get into the industry, but I don't know, it's one of those things where you may want to start trying to figure out kind of what your end goal is and find a system that'll work for it, which Trollmaster will accomplish everything. I like them. I'm working on switching to the Agrotech, which is insanely complicated, but it'll allow me to run all of my different rows of my different zones of my plants on its own light intensity schedule. You can just plug in more sensors and stuff with it.
The Pro controllers do provide a lot more data, and the Hydro X is only remote. You can only do remote management and like the graph viewing on the phone. The Pro controllers is actually the web login that you can do from a PC, and a lot more data available.
Those are actually all things that Efficiency Vermont's offered all of us rebates for, is the controllers.
We use a mix of both. We use the Pro controllers in like the flower rooms, and I use the Hydro X in like our dry rooms and the veg in other rooms where you don't need quite as much data and flexibility.
Yeah.
I will definitely recommend the Aqua X. I was a little intimidated setting up my irrigation and all my solenoids through the Aqua X. It was really, really simple and a very gratifying thing to complete. And that just opens my solenoids whenever I tell it to, as you know. And, you have full control over feeding the garden, Great. Yeah. Goes a long way.
Another really neat feature of the Pro controllers, as far as lighting and efficiency go, is you can actually adjust the lighting in like at least 100 or more points over the 12-hour period. So you can actually like start with a sunrise and then hit a peak output from your lights and then kind of ramp down. So in the bedroom, you can, kind of give them some of that high intensity lighting, but then back off and keep the photo period long without actually using as much energy. That's something that we do.
Very cool.
Yeah.
You can schedule that out over time too. So you can like schedule many, many weeks on that Pro level. So you can set up your entire grow for, how the plant's going to perform once you sort of know what you want it to do. So you're just sort of setting it and then monitoring it from there, which is cool. It does come with a much higher price tag than their base controller, but it does give you more control and flexibility to manage your schedule.
That's great. I didn't know that came with that sort of added flexibility. That's really good to know. They're about $2,000 if I remember correctly for the full screen and display and everything. But another thing to add to the list of upgrades, it sounds like. Yeah.
Well, it's time check, just about 5:35. I don't know if this is like a natural progression to invite our Efficiency Vermont folks to turn on their cameras and join us. I can't really think of a better way to introduce Efficiency Vermont, given how much Efficiency Vermont has been discussed in the last 36 minutes. It's super exciting from my perspective as a commissioner. And Aiden, I know you kind of briefly touched on efficiency or sustainability, whatever you want to call it, outside of just the energy scope. And I am working on a sustainability certification that I'll roundtable with interested folks sometime in the next couple months that folks can really look to work towards It'll be easy for some, others, can work towards it. But we're thinking that way at the Cannabis Board, and I'm just really excited to, be working with all of you that are interested in this as well. So without further ado, Rose, Dan, I saw you both turned your camera on. Thank you so much for being here. It's really exciting. So thank you.
Well, thank you for having us. We are delighted to be here. It's been lovely to hear all of the nice name drops of Efficiency Vermont. So thank you so much.
Yeah, we'll join you guys anytime. Just
so Lisa just shared her screen. I'm just going to kind of do a brief overview of who we are and what we're doing, and thank you for inviting us today. We have a few members of our team here. We're the Controlled Environment Ag team at EBT, and Lisa Coven, our program manager, is here, and Dan Edson, our senior engineering consultant, and I saw Kathy Reynolds is here. She's a senior account manager, and I am an account manager as well. So we've got a big team of us here, and I'll briefly cover who we are and what we're doing. So Lisa, on to the next one. Oh, Tito Byrne, what a great message in the chat. So who we are the statewide energy efficiency utility. Our goal is to reduce the cost of energy for all Vermonters by helping families, businesses, families on the residential side, businesses on the commercial side, and institutions to help you understand and make better use of energy and reduce greenhouse gases. And how can we help this industry? We kind of pulled our biggest energy savings opportunities. And as many of you have pointed out tonight, there's lighting. We also support dimming controls. That's helped save folks some energy. So we incentivize a lot of LED products that are, they have to be on the qualified product list by the Design Light Consortium list. So I feel like there's a lot of info here, and if you connect with us, we can walk you through all of it. That's sort of Kathy and my job, is to help connect, make the connections, and then the technical advice will come from our engineering team. But so we have lighting and dimming controls. We also incentivize dehumidification. You've been talking about those quests, those Aiden units. And then we also incentivize HVAC and HVAC with integrated dehumidification. So that looks like cold climate heat pumps that are professionally installed, chilling systems, building automation systems are really important. And then we do offer some rebates on fans. They have to have variable speed controls. So we've got, and then there's a lot more that we can incentivize. They've just been rarer in our incentives. So these are sort of like the big ones that we touch on with everybody. And the way you interact with us can be different. If you only want to talk about, 2 lights, we can talk about that, all the way up through huge complex systems that take in all the different systems that you're working with. And I know I'm trying to be brief for you all because I know we're on a timeline here, but we just want to touch on sort of how we offer our incentives. We've offered incentives to over 50 cannabis cultivators. And the way we put it all together, Lisa, if you want to pop to the next slide. She might be frozen. There was a little bit of internet connectivity issues. Oh, perfect. She's there. Okay. So we take all the info. Oh no, go back one. We're going to ask you for a bunch of info for how you're using your building and the equipment you're using. And we put it through a custom energy analysis using our in-house modeling tools. And from there, we have a baseline scenario of a baseline cannabis facility that the Cannabis Control Board will allow, and we compare that to the specifics that you're operating under. So if you're going for that more efficient Quest or and dehumidifier, if you're going with a great LED, we try to take that efficiency opportunities and plug it into our model, and then compare the baseline to what you're proposing. And we call that the incremental cost between those two options. And we try to incentivize that to about 30%. So we're trying to help you buy that more efficient equipment to save money now and over the long term in your energy costs. And then we're offering an additional 25% bonus up to $5,000 for folks who are CCB qualified social equity applicants. So we're really trying to come up with incentives that will be helpful for folks and help you get that efficient equipment. And Lisa's been on this slide, so this is sort of just what we need to create our models. And the way we work with folks is you call our project intake coordinator or you email them. Their contact info is on the top right up here. And we just need to look, we need to talk about the general building info, how you're using it, how you're operating it, and how you're growing, which will help us put everything together and then give you that incentive agreement. And I try to keep it short because Dan, our pro, is on the call. So if folks have specific questions for Dan, he's happy to answer. He's kind of our technical wizard. So if anybody has any questions for me or Dan, this is a great moment.
Thanks, Rose. While folks are teeing up questions, I'll just say hi to Nick and Angela and Nick and Stephanie, who was on before. Great to see your faces. And I've had the opportunity to visit a lot of grows in the state. And overall, what I've seen is just a lot of really amazing folks who are trying to do the right thing. And there's a lot of opportunity for collaboration. And this is an excellent forum for it. So I think that that's really cool. But also we as Efficiency Vermont have had the opportunity to speak with a lot of growers, collect a lot of information. And so if you have any question at all, even if it's not about energy efficiency, feel free to reach out to us and we can probably connect you with another amazing grower in our state who has had experience with the question that you have. So yeah, and then I'd be happy to talk about any of the things that we've been discussing, Quest versus Aiden, or you know, raising and lowering lights, or the difference between Nick and Nick's grows.
Dan, this is Kyle, and we've got about 15 minutes for folks to get into the density here. So please feel free to do so. We did have one question from John. I don't know if this is for Rose or Dan, but is there a list of controllers that EV gives rebates on?
You mean for dimming controllers, John? I assume. If you're referring to dim. Oh, sorry. Did somebody jump in?
It was Kyle again. I haven't seen John follow up, but I also did want to invite people to raise their virtual hand and feel free to chime in using their voice, unless they're more comfortable using the chat function. However, environmental controllers, John has followed up.
Yeah, there's not a qualified products list for environmental controllers. If you are looking at a certain controller, we're happy to, say essentially if it does the job, we're going to help you. We're going to incentivize it if it can dim lighting. And we can also connect you with other growers who might have had experience using that controller if you have questions on it.
It doesn't need to be a fully integrated environment controller. You can.
No, it does not.
Standalone. Yeah.
It does not. No. Nope. Yeah, like what was talked about with the Troll Masters and the different versions that you can get, the bare bones we will help incentivize.
Rose touched on fully integrated dehumidification too quickly versus decoupled systems. And I know we talked about that just a little bit. I don't know if that really it applies to the smaller grows, but
It doesn't. You're talking about a huge price jump when you get up to a commercial grade air handling system, or even like a ground mounted RTU, where you have an integrated dehu system with enthalpy wheels and modulating hot gas reheat. So that type of a system is really expensive, and I've seen 3 of them in the state, and one of them was the grower, admittedly said it's overkill for their operation, but they're hoping to upgrade at some point.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I am a fan of those systems. I'm not a fan of electric reheat, and I've seen a lot of that implemented in even Massachusetts and Maine. And our energy costs are just so high. I don't have the resources you guys have, but my initial, reaction to those systems are it's just typically not as efficient. Hot gas is probably the way to go when you get into an integrated system like that. But even with, I've seen some condensing boiler coil reheat systems that seem like they're probably more efficient than electric reheat. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so I mean, electric resistance heat is 100% efficient, but it's all about the distribution and where you're getting it. Here in Vermont, we're super lucky to have a relatively renewable grid, and we're working to become more and more renewable. But utilizing hot gas reheat is the most efficient, right? Because it's waste heat coming off of your compressors. So in the Cannabis Control Board's regulations, they require, I think, like a certain percentage to be modulated hot gas reheat in that type of system. And like in California, where that regulation was first drafted, that language, there was a big push to make it, I think, maybe even 100%. And so this is kind of on the conservative side, meaning that there is some opportunity there for another type of heating system within your dehumidification process to make up for what the hot gas reheat can't do. And in my mind, like the thing that makes the most sense, is the most economical, would be to have electric resistance heat in there. But that doesn't meet Vermont's commercial building energy code. So, it's kind of like a oxymoron, kind of catch-22 situation there.
Yeah.
Any other questions for any of these awesome folks while we have them here from folks listening?
I love the conversation about doing 5 on, 2 off, 7 on, or whatever it was. And I have seen that once. That looks like it's being implemented successfully, and we are 100% on board to work with growers to finagle schedules that will reduce energy consumption and load demand throughout your grow cycle. Just let us know what. Obviously, there's the third shift issue and having employees, and we get that. And I don't know how we're going to solve that, but if there's any other roadblocks that are in your way to helping implement that, we'd love to hear how we can help. So we're all ears, and I think that it's a really cool conversation to have started here.
I think in the future, if it was possible, if Efficiency Vermont could offer a rebate for a par meter, that could really help a lot of energy savings. I can't beat it home enough that that's one of the greatest investments for a grower, just to know exactly what your light intensity is and be real meaningful change, help people. I don't know if that could ever be written into your rebate program. And also, thanks for everything, Dan. You're awesome. I almost bought some air conditioners that only operated down to 0 degrees till Dan pointed out to me that what I was looking at, and he pointed out the ones that run super cool. That's the kind of help that these guys offer. Whether it's me overlooking a number or decimal, they look at that stuff for us.
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah.
Thank you, Nick. That's awesome. That's an awesome suggestion.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we'll definitely look into that for sure.
Thank you.
Sounds great.
Oh, and if anyone has any any questions on the general growing, feel free to email myself. I don't know if anyone else wants to be contacted, but it's emeraldvisionsllc@gmail.com if you need help with any kind of grow questions. I'd be more than happy to help an up and coming grower. Just don't contact me if you're a tier 5. Because you're on your own.
We're also able to help people, work through stuff. I think one of the things that comes up a lot with these discussions is sort of brands, and people get really stuck on particular brands. And my message is sort of, every brand isn't right for every grower. And so we want to kind of look at your grow style and your ceiling height and everything about your facility to sort of help you choose the right one for you. Do you have the ability to raise and lower your lights or not? Do we need something that has more penetrating power at distance? So there's a lot of choice out there, and there's a huge range in price. And so we can really help people talk through what's best for them, as well as Efficiency Vermont.
And go through your options when you're looking at lights. Like, don't get fixated. Like, really see what they have to offer and the companies have to offer. How easy is it to get info from them? Talk to somebody, all that stuff.
Yeah, what's the follow-up support like from the company? Things like that can be really important, especially in a smaller grow.
Yeah, I agree with that. I ended up going with Lux for my lights, and they got bought out. So their customer
bought and crashed.
Yeah,
they got bought and pulled off the market. It's too bad.
But they're great lights. So I'm happy with them. But customer service won't be there that great. Yeah. So that's one of those things.
See a question in there on what type of meter, PPFD or UMOL. I don't know that's the type of measurement is not as important as the quality of the meter. You need a meter that's full spectrum to work with the LEDs, the older Lux meters are not really ideal. Like you were saying, Nick, a good par meter is over $500.
Yeah, the great one, if I had to recommend one, is Apogee all day long. Bruce Bugby's the guy that's developed all those sensors. He's pretty much gold standard for sensors.
The only one that I know of. I think Sunlight Supply sells one, and it's a like rebranded Apogee. So.
Yep. Oh, and then definitely get the wand. Get the wand with it, the telescoping wand. It's worth $50.
Yep.
See someone on here saying photo bio PPFD meter. Apparently, $50.
That's the photo bio quantum meter. That's a decent meter. Yep.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, do whatever you have to do. Some data is better than no data. I mean. I'd rather drive without my glasses on than with my eyes closed. So, yeah.
Well, this has been great. We got about 5 minutes left. I don't mind giving that 5 minutes back to all of our panelists here if there's no more questions. So final call, anybody that's listening, speak now or forever hold your efficiency questions until you contact Efficiency Vermont to get some rebate program going.
Yeah, I mean, contacting Efficiency Vermont is what we tell everybody when they call us and getting started. Great, you're calling us to help you set up your grow, and have you called Efficiency Vermont yet? Yeah.
Yeah, the list of
your next call.
The list of products that they'll give you rebates for grow lights is very extensive. So just reach out to them as soon as possible. It does yourself a favor, other than trying to correct them or buying the wrong thing, then just talk to them right off.
I think the heat pump conversation is probably the most important one, even more than lights with Efficiency Vermont, and making sure that,
Yeah,
So-
right now our bedroom, we're using the heat mode on that unit. So yeah, it is a heat pump. So we're not even using the air conditioned mode because right now we're kind of in between rounds. So getting a heat pump is so helpful. You're kind of getting a 2-for-1 deal, a heater and an AC.
Yep.
Yeah, I am going to personally be doing a lot of experimenting with trying to get some outside air coming into my space. It seems like, it sucks because we have sealed rooms, we have CO2, right? And so we bring fresh air in, then we're getting rid of our CO2. But what's kind of more expensive, HVAC equipment or CO2? Because for 6 months out of the year, we do pretty much have air conditioned air right outside. We got dry, cool air for free. And so really, trying to figure out how to get that in nice and clean without it's condensation that's the issue, right? You pull in cold air to a warm, humid space and you got water problems. And so
I'm happy to help you figure that out. Anybody who's interested.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's actually equipment designed energy recovery units that will basically eliminate that condensation, and I'm pretty sure there's rebates on the HRVs and ERVs too.
It's true that it gets really, when you're talking about the CFMs needed, it gets really expensive though too. So yeah.
There's a lot of other industries with high humidity and far more outdoor air requirements that have been doing it for a long time. So we've been figuring it out.
Right.
Very cool.
Thank you, everyone.
Well, yes. Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate you taking an hour out of your day to explain and help people understand what you're doing or what options are out there for, folks that might be less knowledgeable in this space. I think it's super helpful. A lot of our energy efficiency regulations were developed alongside of Efficiency Vermont. We wanted to make sure folks could still take advantage of these cool rebate programs that are available to everybody. I did see Rose and Kathy pasting the fee sheet or the info sheets into the chat. Nellie and I will work to make sure that information's up on our website, and we're going to try and distribute some of that material with the notice for relicensure that will start going out for folks in the coming months. But thanks again. I really appreciate it. I know Nick Smith offered up his email address should anybody have any questions. I think it's really cool how much folks in this community want to help each other. I know for a fact that's not how things operate in other states. So I don't want to volunteer everybody here that might be willing to.
I'd be willing to volunteer my email too. And one other little tidbit: we do rainwater collection and condensate recapture here, and that's another. That can be pretty huge if you're on the municipal water.